Yesterday's price is not today's price. And I'm talking about brisket. It's getting insanely expensive. It's like $90 for a full pack of brisket right now. I don't know who convinced cows to charge that much for breast meat. However, we're gonna make this work. Today we were making some pork belly burnt ends. Traditionally, burnt ends come from the point of a brisket. And so I would buy an entire brisket, I'd cut it in half, I'd make the burnt ends out of that part of the brisket. But as I just said, brisket's way too expensive. But it's all good because pork belly is just as good, if not better. I mean, pork belly is literally just bacon. So imagine cubes of bacon covered in barbecue sauce that just melt in your mouth. That's what we're making today. I can't wait. Pork belly, you can find Costco, Sam's Club, even some other places for about like $30. It's really inexpensive, but it feeds a lot of people. Just make sure when you get your pork belly, you're getting it skin off. It is very easy to get the skin on because typically they're right next to each other and you can't see, but you wanna get skin off. This is just fat. I've actually made pork belly burnt ends before with the skin on by accident. It's not the end of the world, it's just not as fun. So just make sure you're paying attention there. And all you need to do is literally just take it out of the packaging. There's very little trimming you have to do. I mean, if you want to come in here, like these little pieces of fat, you can kind of cut off, but like it's all just flavor. So we're not gonna do too much about it. I've just got a little wire rack right here on a pan for our burnt ends. And I just wanna go ahead and spray this with some cooking oil. That way it doesn't stick to it. And then just to make this a little bit more manageable, I'm gonna cut this in half. And having a good sharp knife is really helpful here. So most people would do like their burnt ends like 2 inches because it is gonna shrink a little bit while it's cooking, but I kinda want these to still stay on the bite-sized variety. So I'm gonna go about 1 inch, maybe just a little bit over 1 inch. And I'm just cutting these right now into strips. And it's okay, it doesn't have to be perfectly even. And there's a good knife will make this super easy. And I only paid like $30 for this knife, so you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars for a good knife. You just gotta know the right place to get them.
But what if you wanna murder somebody, John?
It can still do that. So now that we've got our strips here, what I wanna do is just come back and we did 1 inch across. Let's do 1 inch here as well. And also this is a great football food. And if you got people over, you kind of want to be able to stretch that food out. So this is all we're doing. We're just cubing everything up. And again, it looks just like bacon, right? Because it is bacon. It's going to be so good when it's all cooked down. We have cubed up half of our pork belly, and just so you see, just 1 inch little cubes like that. And so I've just placed it in a bowl, and I've got the Our Butts Are Smoking Honey Chipotle rub. But feel free to use your favorite barbecue rub. I just think this one is a very good barbecue rub. And so I'm giving this generous coating. So I'm just giving that top layer a good coating, and I'm going to, like I said, heavily dose this. Give it a good mix, come back around. We want all sides coated. Every single side of every single cube, seasoned and kissed with your favorite seasoning, in this case, this honey chipotle rub. All right, and now bringing this over here to this rack that we sprayed with cooking oil. So all I'm doing is I'm just placing these on the cooking rack, but fat side up. So here is the meaty side, as you can just tell from the color. And then here is the fat side. And so we're just gonna place that up. So as it's cooking and the fat's rendering, it's kind of melting down and covering up the pieces. But putting it on this wire rack is gonna be super helpful for you guys because it's gonna just make transporting all these pork belly burnt ends to and from the grill so much easier versus having to open it up, grab everything with tongs. I mean, we're looking at probably like a good 60, 75 pieces of pork belly here. So I'm gonna continue getting these lined up, and then I'm gonna cut that up, and I will meet you guys upstairs at the grill. Today I am cooking my pork belly burnt ends on my Traeger. I've got it set to 275. You can do this on any smoker, just indirect 275. You can throw some hickory, some pecan, some applewood on there for flavor, but I'm just gonna run with some hickory pellets in my Traeger. So I've already got my first rack on because these made so many that I had to split it up into 2. Which is actually pretty good because I do want to give these a little bit of space in between. That other rack is a little bit more crowded, but I'm making do with what I have. And these are just some cooling racks that I bought on Amazon. So all I'm gonna do is, without dropping it or burning myself, place it right in here like a glove. And now these are just going to smoke for about 2 hours or so. We're gonna come back and check on it and see how the color's looking. And then if it needs to go a little bit longer, we'll let it go for like another 30 to an hour. If not, then we'll take it out and we'll wrap it. And that's gonna be my favorite part because we're gonna get really fat with that part. All right, it has been about 2 hours. I actually did lower the temperature to 250 from 275 about midway through. So let's go ahead and just take a look at this. This is exactly what I was looking for. This is the right type of color. Got a nice little bark on it. Things are starting to come together. You see how it's jiggling.
Jiggling, baby.
That's what I want to see. So let's get ready to move it into our next step. The beauty of these racks is we can transport these so easily into our pan. And because we sprayed it with cooking spray, we can just move it right there like that. We've got it in a nice big giant size pan, and I'm gonna take what I assume is about a half cup of brown sugar, and I'm just gonna sprinkle it on. I've got about a stick and a half of butter here that I'm just going to put around. And if you guys have cooked ribs before, you'll kind of recognize what I'm doing here. It's kind of a 3-2-1 method where we did it, you know, some hours in the smoke, then we're doing it in a wrap and we're putting things familiar with it, brown sugar, butter, some honey, a couple other things. So this is a really easy recipe to remember for those of you who are experienced in cooking ribs. We've got some honey for the money, as they say, in the barbecue circuit. And I am just gonna give this just a good drizzle all the way down. And I'm coming back with just a little bit more. And last but not least, this is called Captain Rodney's Original Boucan Glaze. This is a nice sweet pepper glaze. What I recommend you guys doing is, you don't need a lot of this. So what I recommend you doing is pouring a spoonful of this first, taste it and see how the kind of peppery notes kind of hit you to determine how much you need. I'm not going to need to use a lot because I did use a honey chipotle pepper. So I am going very light, just one good drizzle. So now that I've got all this in here, what I want to just do is take some aluminum foil. We got some heavy duty foil. Cover this guy up. And then back on the smoker, this goes still at 250 degrees for anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm probably gonna lean more towards 2 hours. And this is gonna tenderize it. It's gonna add some more flavor to it. And it's just gonna melt in your mouth when it's ready to go. So onto the smoker, don't touch it after that. Of course, you can't have burnt ends without a barbecue sauce. And so we are going to make a barbecue sauce real quick, but feel free, if you have one that you already bought, use it, it's still good. This is actually the same as my bourbon barbecue sauce that I made for this video a while back for the burger with the onion crisp and all that stuff like that. However, I am swapping out the bourbon for some whiskey, Bullet rye whiskey to be exact, and this is my pour choice of today. I guess I could drink it straight out of the bottle because I don't have anything to pour it in. I'll deal with that in a second, but first we're gonna start with our barbecue sauce components. It's nothing complicated. A lot of it is kind of by feel. So first we're gonna start with 2 cups of ketchup over some medium heat. Next, I'm gonna do about a half cup of molasses, a cup of brown sugar. I've got light brown sugar.
Want some more brown sugar?
A half cup of apple cider vinegar. I have got 4 teaspoons of smoked paprika and 4 teaspoons of pepper. I'm gonna pop that in. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder and 2 teaspoons of onion powder. Popping that in. And I've got a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of cayenne pepper going in. I am going to do about 2 tablespoons, just eyeballing it, of soy sauce. And then I'm gonna do about 6 dashes of Worcestershire. And then last but not least, we're gonna add our whiskey. And I actually have a measuring thing right here. So I'm gonna do 2 ounces of that whiskey, maybe a little bit more. And now we're just gonna give this a good mix. And we'll adjust from here. We'll know, do we need to add more ketchup? Do we need more vinegar? Do we need more brown sugar? But we first need this to come up to a simmer. Well, this is going to be the sauce that we pour over our burnt ends. Before we go back upstairs later on to pour this over, I'll check it one more time. That's crazy, that thing is moving by itself. Look at it. It's moving by itself. There's a ghost in this house. There's
Ghost
some
just wanted to
ghosts
take
in
a
this
shot.
house. I am supposed to take a shot. Well, pour me one if you're going to do it. May I? Yo, what if that shit got like thrown back in my face? I was like, oh! Yeah. Our barbecue sauce has been simmering for a while. I'd say about a good 25 minutes. I did add another cup of brown sugar in there because the thing about the rye whiskey is it tends to be on the drier side, and if we're using a bourbon, it would already have that sweetness, so I just need to add a little bit more brown sugar. To put it into comparison of other barbecue sauces, if you've ever had a Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce, pretty much kind of the same thing, except we're just using a different whiskey other than Jack Daniel's. So this is gonna go on top of our pork belly burnt ends in probably about the next 20 minutes because they're almost reaching that 2-hour mark. And it's gonna be so good. I can't wait, I can't wait. Also, I haven't eaten anything today, and I did take a shot of this, if you're wondering. All right, it has been about 2 hours. We are going to open this up carefully because there's a lot of steam in here, and I'm just gonna feel it. Oh yeah, they should be nice and soft. Now we are going to take these and transfer them to a new pan. You could just drain this if you want to, but you know, pans are cheap because we want to get it out of this braising liquid and we want to now get ready to put our barbecue sauce on it because this last little step is only going to take a few minutes, and I mean like maybe 10. All right, we have taken everything out of our first pan and we moved to a new one, and now we have our barbecue sauce that we made earlier, and we are just going to drizzle it on top. And then you have to be very careful at this point because these are super tender and they will break apart. So just want to move around, make sure they are getting coated. Some may be laying on top of others, and so we just want to make sure that the barbecue sauce gets on everything. And if my gloves weren't broken, I would absolutely just toss it with my hands. All right, so this is good. Our grill is still at 250, so I'm going to take these and I'm just going to put them on the grill for about another 10 to 15 minutes or so. And all I'm really doing this for is just so this sauce can kind of tack up. There's a lot of sugar in the sauce, so I don't want to go too long, otherwise it'll start burning. Going back on uncovered in a new pan with the barbecue sauce. 15 minutes, we'll be done. We'll meet you back downstairs and we'll be good to go. All right, our burnt ends set on the grill with the barbecue sauce on it for 15 minutes. It tacked up nicely. I can already tell this is about to melt in my mouth, so let me just do the obligatory eat something and tell you how amazing it is. And just like I said, it melts in your mouth. If you have the means to make regular burnt ends, this process still works, but man, something about pork belly. I mean, cubes of bacon in your mouth. I can't describe it to you guys other than just inviting you to try it. There's about 80 pieces of pork belly burnt ends in here. So I got about good 3/4 of those I'm about to eat. And then I don't know what Lewis is gonna eat or anybody else, but this is good. Poor Choices Kitchen. Let us know what changes you wanna make to this or what your techniques are, because I would love to. I'm always down to experiment and try other things, but yeah, this is a winner and I am about to enjoy winning.